Right. Good morning. How is everybody doing this morning?
Great.
All right. Good. I was glad to get some feedback here. I was going to say I'm going to try to make this a little bit interactive. I know it's a Wednesday morning. You're all tired. It's been a long week. So I'm going to talk a little bit about accelerating forecast innovation through ethics collaborative framework and HPC driven transparency. I do want to thank my collaborators here, special acknowledgements to Anna Kimball and Kevin Blackman. Also, I think I forgot to actually mention Jeff Dodson, because without him, none of this would have been possible. Also, Epic, as just an organization, we like to thank our community partners as well, because without their help and support, none of this would be, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, and we're certainly appreciative of them for what they do for us. And as I said, they're just listed up there. So I'll talk a little bit, I guess, kind of first to start off, we're going to talk a little bit about Epic and kind of what the problem that we're trying to solve here at Epic. I mean, we want to be able to get innovations from the community and actually take that and move that into operations. And where does Epic fit into all that? Well, we provide the support for that through our GitHub discussions, the user forums. If you happen to have a question about you're using the UFS and you have a question and you want to understand better, well, that's something that we provide. We also provide documentation on the various UFS applications. So if you need to understand better about, various things, we also provide code repository support as well. Ultimately, these three pieces of the innovation process ultimately translating to putting your innovation into operations. Epic as a program measures its success three ways. Through that building of community, we try to nurture an inclusive community and a diverse modeling community. But really more than anything, and really what my team does, is we provide the infrastructure for that. And that's kind of what we're going to focus a little bit on today, about how that end-to-end testing and development process in the unified forecast system can ultimately lead to the result that we want, which is bringing that innovation into operations. Just curious, how many people here are using the UFS currently? Raise your hand. How many people would like to use the UFS but don't really know much about it? Raise your hand. Okay. I also want to ask, I guess, my next question is, how many of you have access to a high-performance computing system? Okay, I see some problems. The fact that there are people who want to use the UFS, but they don't have access to a high-performance computing system. And that's really the problem that we're trying to solve, which is I don't have access to an HPC platform. And we all know that really in order to run the UFS at scale, to really have any real, sustainable progress, you actually have to have access to a proper high-performance computing system. So we need to lower the barrier to entry to allow users to access high-performance computing resources. And this is further complicated by the security challenge. I'm just curious of the people that are using high-performance computing, how many of those are actually R&D systems inside NOAA? Right. And I'm going to guess it took a while to be able to get those credentials, which is one of the biggest challenges. It's definitely stifles innovation because you're a person who's working in the academic community or you're working in one of the labs and you want to be able to sit there and actually bring that innovation in, but you have to sit here, you have to go through filling out a form and it taking, quite a considerable amount of time. And in the meantime, that's time that you're wasting and you want to be able to innovate very, very rapidly. So that's the security challenge, as we call it. So how do we solve this? Well, we do this through creating automation of CI/CD pipelines, allowing you to go through, download the UFS code base or whichever one of the UFS applications, the code repository, actually make contributions to that code repository with your amendments, and then taking that and actually allowing you to go through with that pull request and watch it be run through the automated process without actually having to have console access onto a high-performance computing system. We actually do that by providing these transparent insights, these various metrics that let you see all the various ways throughout the CI/CD process that your innovation is actually being used. And we do this with a few different tools. One of our biggest ones that we're using currently is Jenkins. Of course, you're probably sitting there thinking Jenkins has probably fallen out of favor with the software industry. It is a tried and true solution, but it is a little bit long in the tooth. We are trying to move away from Jenkins and move towards GitHub Actions, some of our newer repositories and that we're taking on are actually using GitHub Actions. So, but in the meantime, we still do have our quality gates through Jenkins. And one of those quality gates that we're actually leveraging is SonarQube. SonarQube allows us to go through and actually perform analysis and ensure that the contributions from the community are able to follow the various compliance standards that we want. We want to make sure that they're following NCO standards because ultimately we want this code to get into operations and make sure that it's free of defects, that it doesn't have any kind of security bug or something of that nature that's going to sit there and stifle your innovation. And ultimately, when these tests are run, all of these quality control gates, they ultimately end up in an Amazon S3 bucket. And that Amazon S3 bucket is publicly accessible. Anybody here can go and download your tests, your regression tests or operational requirements tests and actually see in real time what happened here. Why did my test fail? It enables you to perform better troubleshooting so you don't actually need console access. And these are performed not just on these CI/CD pipelines, as I mentioned, they're not just being ran on any platform. These are actually proper NOAA Tier-1 platforms. And you see some of them listed there. And you say, what's a NOAA Tier-1 platform? What does that have to do with anything? Well, the NOAA Tier-1 platforms take care of one of the biggest hassles that you have getting into using the UFS. This is something that we find often when we have workshops is that people want to use the UFS, but they don't know where to get started. They run into the problem with libraries and dependencies. Anybody who's ever tried to install software knows this. You run through just getting set up initially. It's just a hassle. Well, these NOAA Tier-1 platforms that we're actually doing the CI/CD builds on have already taken care of that for you. You have the spec stack pre-installed, as well as the fact that these do have the computational resources to run these experiments at scale. Another thing that we've done that's a little bit different is the fact that we actually do provide these infrastructure metrics. So you can see the various metrics that you would see on a high performance computing system with, say you're, you're running, Slurm, whatever, and you want to actually see your wall time, or you want to see how many cores it's using. We provide these metrics. You'll have to kind of apologize for not being able to fit the entire screenshot on my slide, but I did want to provide the QR code there. So if anybody has a phone, if you want to try to scan that, so you can actually take a look at that. This is actually up on the Epic Community Portal, our website, which actually features these infrastructure metrics, and you can compare the metrics between different high performance computing systems, whether it be Orion or Hercules, Derecho, any of those, and actually see how it progresses. Is this a problem with that particular platform? Is it going to run better on this platform? It kind of helps you do a little bit of troubleshooting to be able to realize, is the code that I've contributed, is it making it better? And as of right now, besides, I think honestly right now out on the portal, we're actually only showing wall time, but we do have plans to actually increase those metrics, actually being able to show the core hours used, the CPU percentage used, your memory and disk usage. But this one is the big one, forecast skill. That's something that we absolutely want to see because we want to know, is the model getting better? Is it getting worse? Is what I'm doing actually improving forecast skill? I'm not going to go too into the details about how the forecast skill is actually calculated, but the gentleman who did the work is actually there in the back, and you can talk to him afterwards about that. But it does involve, of course, root mean square error against the various variables against the lead time. It's about all I know of it. So in addition to just those metrics, the fact that we actually have those, I mentioned the S3 bucket earlier, which is great, I guess, if you understand the AWS CLI tool, something like that. But most of you just want to go to a nice web page. You want to have a website that you can go to, and you actually want to be able to go through and download your regression test logs, your operational requirement test logs, actually see if it passed the building and testing in the pipeline. And we actually have that now on the Epic Community Portal. Once again, trying to fit this on the slide, I did want to provide this QR code so you can actually look at the build artifacts throughout the process. So we'll just kind of wrap it up here, talking about the fact that, take advantage of our community portal, as we do have one of the biggest things that we have there is these tutorials that will provide quick insights into how to get started if you are unsure about getting started with UFS. In addition to being able to have those various metrics, feel free to reach out to the user support team. The email is listed there, and I'm going to actually also encourage you to do the new thing and reach out over our social media networks. I'm going to actually provide the links to our social media here in just a second. So there's once again some of the QR codes if you want to get involved. Give you guys a minute to scan it if you want.